The relationship is not healing. It is just calming down between rounds. If warmth keeps coming back, but the same fight keeps coming back with it, something important is not being repaired. They think the softer mood means the problem is gone. They think the normal text means the conflict has passed. They think the hug, the joke, the soft tone, the sudden kindness means the relationship has found its way back to safety. But sometimes, warmth is not repair. Sometimes warmth is just the emotional weather changing before the structure changes. If the only thing that changes after conflict is the mood, the relationship has not repaired. It is only softened for a while. That is why the pattern keeps repeating. Not because there is no love, not because every soft moment is fake, but because warmth can make a relationship feel better without making it function differently. The room can feel peaceful again while the wound is still underneath the floor. The tone can become kind again while the same trigger is still waiting for the next time. This is the loop so many people live inside. Conflict happens. Distance happens. Tension builds. Someone shuts down. Someone panics. Someone gets defensive. Someone feels unseen. Someone feels controlled. Someone feels abandoned. Someone feels blamed. Then, after the storm, warmth returns. A gentle message, a normal conversation, a small joke, a softer voice, a touch, a return to routine. And because the tension was so painful, that warmth feels like oxygen. It feels like proof that the relationship is okay again. But then, the same issue comes back. The same tone, the same avoidance, the same emotional escalation, the same silence, the same pressure, the same unmet need. And now, you are not only hurt by the conflict, you are exhausted by the repetition. You start thinking, how did we get here again? We were fine yesterday. They were warm yesterday. We laughed. We connected. We felt close. So why are we back in the same fight? The answer is simple, but painful. Warmth changed the feeling. It did not change the pattern. Now, let us break down why warmth is so convincing. Warmth works on the body fast. When someone who has been distant becomes soft, your nervous system notices immediately. The threat drops. The room feels less dangerous. The face softens. The voice changes. The silence breaks. The tension releases. The anxious body especially can mistake that release for repair because the pain stops pressing so hard. When you have been waiting for a signal that the bond is still alive, warmth feels like an answer. It says, they are here. It says, they are not gone. It says, maybe I am not alone in this. Even a small softening can feel huge when the relationship has been cold. A normal reply can feel like a doorway. A kind tone can feel like safety. A night without fighting can feel like progress. That is not stupidity. That is biology. If this kind of clarity helps your nervous system settle, subscribe. PsychBond is a daily decoder for psychology, relationships, and avoidant and anxious attachment patterns, so you stop guessing. When the threat finally drops, the body wants to rest. The problem is not that warmth feels good. The problem is when warmth becomes the replacement for the conversation that never happened. The same thing can happen on the other side. For the person who avoids hard emotional conversations, warmth can become a way back into connection without facing the discomfort of repair. They may not know they are doing it. They may genuinely want things to feel better. They may want peace. They may want closeness. They may hate the tension too. So they get softer. They act normal. They bring back the kind part of themselves. And because the other person responds with relief, the relationship moves forward without touching what actually broke. Nobody has to name the impact. Nobody has to admit what happened. Nobody has to sit in guilt, shame, fear, or responsibility. Warmth lets both people skip the hardest part. That is why it is so seductive. It gives the feeling of reconnection without the weight of repair. But the hard part is where the change lives. The hard part is where the pattern is named. The hard part is where the relationship stops pretending that a better mood is the same as a better foundation. Warmth says, "Can we feel close again?" Repair asks, "Can we understand why we lost safety in the first place?" Warmth says, "I do not want to fight." Repair asks, "What keeps turning this into a fight?" Warmth says, "Let us move on." Repair asks, "What needs to change so moving on does not mean repeating this again?" That is the difference. Warmth can reopen the door. Repair rebuilds the room. Warmth can lower the emotional temperature. Repair changes what happens the next time the temperature rises. Warmth can remind you that love exists. Repair shows whether love can become safer in real life. And this is where many relationships get stuck. They keep using warmth as a bridge over the wound instead of building a path through it. So they get close again, but the wound stays untouched. They laugh again, but the resentment stays. They text normally again, but the fear stays. Then, the next trigger appears, and because nothing was repaired, the relationship has no new response. It only has the old reflex. One person says something, the other hears criticism. One person asks for reassurance, the other hears pressure. One person needs space, the other hears rejection. One person wants to talk, the other hears danger. One person gets quiet, the other gets louder. And suddenly, the same fight is back. Not because the warmth was false, but because warmth was never strong enough to carry what repair was supposed to carry. This is why a relationship can look better for a few days and still be unchanged. The surface has softened, but the system has not learned anything new. The couple may be nicer to each other. They may avoid certain topics. They may try to keep things light. They may agree silently not to ruin the good mood. But avoiding the trigger is not the same as healing the trigger. If the only way to keep peace is to not touch the painful place, that peace is fragile. It is not safety. It is tiptoeing. And tiptoeing is exhausting, because both people can feel the part of the relationship they are not allowed to name. So the anxious person becomes careful. They smile, but monitor. They receive affection, but wonder how long it will last. They are not really resting. They are protecting the warmth. The avoidant or emotionally unavailable person may also sense the unresolved issue sitting there, but may not know how to enter it without feeling blamed, trapped, or exposed. So they keep things light. They become funny, helpful, affectionate, practical, pleasant. But warmth that avoids truth does not protect the relationship. It protects the pattern. It protects the old rule that hard things must be skipped in order to keep connection. Here is the painful truth. A relationship can become addicted to relief. Not happiness, relief. There is a difference. Happiness grows when there is trust. Relief appears when the threat finally stops. If a relationship keeps moving from pain to warmth without repair, warmth starts feeling more powerful than it actually is because it ends the discomfort for a while. The nervous system says, "Finally, we are okay." But being okay for a moment is not the same as becoming safer. A good day is not proof that the wound healed. A kind message is not proof that the pattern changed. Affection is not proof that accountability happened. A calm evening is not proof that the next hard moment will be handled differently. Relief can make you lower your standards because you are so grateful the tension ended. It can make you accept a soft mood as if it were an apology. It can make you confuse closeness with repair. But if moving forward means stepping around the same wound, the relationship is not moving forward. It is circling. This is why the pattern keeps repeating. The relationship keeps passing the point where repair should happen and replacing it with warmth instead. It is like cleaning smoke out of a room while never looking for the fire. The air may clear for a while, you may breathe easier, but if the fire is still burning somewhere, the smoke will come back. In relationships, the smoke is the fight. The fire is the pattern underneath it. The fight may be about texting, tone, money, plans, intimacy, jealousy, timing, effort, or who said what. But the deeper pattern may be about feeling unheard, feeling controlled, feeling abandoned, feeling criticized, feeling unseen, feeling like needs are always too much, or feeling like closeness always turns into pressure. Warmth after the fight may clear the smoke. Repair looks for the fire. That is why repair is not only saying sorry. Sorry can be part of repair, but sorry is not the whole thing. Repair has to make contact with reality. It has to name what happened. It has to care about the impact. It has to ask what each person did to feed the pattern. It has to look at what needs to change next time. It has to create a different response when the same trigger returns. Without that, sorry becomes another form of warmth. It sounds good. It feels good. It may even be sincere. But if the same behavior keeps returning, the apology is not building safety. It is only lowering the heat for a while. The question is not, did they get warm again? The question is, did anything become clearer after the warmth returned? Did the relationship become more honest? Did the next conversation become safer? Did the person who withdrew communicate before disappearing? Did the person who felt hurt name the impact without being punished for it? Did both people learn something about the pattern, or did they simply enjoy the relief and move on? That is the real test. Warmth is easy when nobody is asking for truth. Repair is proven when truth enters the room and the relationship does not collapse. That line matters. Warmth is easy when nobody is asking for truth. Anyone can be affectionate when there is no accountability in the air. Anyone can be sweet when the painful topic is not being named. Anyone can seem loving when the relationship is temporarily free of pressure. But repair is different. Repair asks, can you still stay connected when the truth is uncomfortable? Can you listen without turning the other person's pain into an attack on your character? Can you explain yourself without erasing the impact? Can you take responsibility without collapsing into shame? Can you ask for what you need without making the other person feel like they are being punished? Can you stay present long enough for the pattern to change? That is why repair feels slower than warmth. Warmth can happen in a second. Repair takes tolerance. It takes humility. It takes emotional stamina. It takes the ability to sit in the room after the nervous system wants to escape. It takes the ability to say, "This is uncomfortable, but I am not going to disappear." It takes the ability to say, "I did not mean to hurt you, but I want to understand how I did." It takes the ability to say, "I need space, but I will not use space as a way to erase the conversation." It takes the ability to say, "I am hurt, but I will not use my hurt as a weapon." This is what changes the pattern. Not perfection, not endless talking, not forcing someone to process every feeling in one night. A changed response, a new moment inside an old trigger. If the same trigger appears and both people do one small thing differently, that is repair starting to become real. If the same trigger appears and one person says, "I am getting overwhelmed, but I am not leaving the conversation forever," that is a change. If the same trigger appears and the other person says, "I am scared, but I am going to slow down instead of chasing," that is a change. If the same trigger appears and the relationship can hold the truth without turning it into a war, that is repair. But if the same trigger appears and the same shutdown, same blame, same panic, same silence, same defensiveness, same emotional disappearing comes back, then the warmth did not repair anything. It only gave the relationship a break before the next round. This is the part that can be hard to admit because warm moments are real. You may not be making them up. The love may be real. The softness may be real. The attraction may be real. The apology may even be real. But real does not always mean repaired. Something can be genuine and still not be enough to build safety. Someone can mean the kind thing they said and still not know how to show up differently when conflict returns. Someone can hold you, miss you, text you sweetly, and still avoid the conversation that would stop the pattern from repeating. That is why you have to stop judging the health of a relationship by its best moments only. Best moments show what the bond can feel like. Patterns show what the bond can survive. A relationship is measured by whether it becomes safer after the truth is told. And if truth keeps threatening the warmth is not stable. It is conditional. It is saying, we can be close as long as we do not talk about what hurts. We can be affectionate as long as nobody asks what needs to change. We can feel okay as long as the wound stays quiet. That is not healing. That is emotional stage lighting. The room looks softer, but the furniture is still broken. So, what does real repair actually look like? It starts with naming the pattern, not only replaying the fight. Replaying the fight sounds like, you said this, then I said that, then you did this, then I got upset. Naming the pattern sounds like, when one of us feels hurt, I pursue and you withdraw, and then we both feel unsafe. Or, when you feel criticized, you shut down, and when you shut down, I panic and push harder. Or, when I bring up a need, it turns into a debate over whether my need is valid instead of a conversation about how we can handle it. Repair begins when both people stop arguing only about the surface and start seeing the loop. Then repair asks for impact, not just intention. Intention says, "I did not mean it that way." Impact says, "This is what it did to you." Intention matters, but impact is where healing begins. If someone only talks about what they meant and never cares about how it landed, the wound stays open. Real repair can say, "I did not intend to hurt you, but I understand that my silence made you feel alone. I did not mean to dismiss you, but I see that my tone made you shut down. I needed space, but I see that the way I took it felt like abandonment." That kind of language changes the emotional room because it tells the nervous system, your experience is not being erased. Then, repair needs a next time plan. This is where warmth often fails. People feel better, but nobody talks about what happens next time. Real repair asks, when this comes up again, what do we do differently? If one person needs space, how do they communicate it without disappearing? If one person needs reassurance, how do they ask without flooding the room? If the conflict gets heated, how do both people pause without abandoning the issue? If shame comes up, how does the person stay present instead of becoming defensive? If fear comes up, how does the other person slow down instead of chasing proof? This is not about creating a perfect script for every conflict. It is about giving the relationship a new road to take when the old road appears. Repair is not just a feeling that appears when the mood is softer. Repair is a skill people practice when the easier option would be to move on without changing anything. Without a new road, the relationship will return to the path it already knows, and the old path usually leads to the same fight. This is also where self-honesty matters. Sometimes people say they want repair, but what they really want is for the discomfort to end. They want the closeness back. They want the mood restored. They want the other person to stop being upset. They want to feel like the relationship is okay again. That is human, but it is not the same as wanting to repair. Wanting the discomfort to end asks, how do we stop feeling bad? Wanting repair asks, how do we stop repeating what keeps making us feel bad? Those are different questions. One protects the mood. The other protects the relationship. If someone only wants the discomfort to end, they may become warm, agreeable, affectionate, even apologetic. But when the moment passes, the old behavior returns because the goal was never change. The goal was relief. This is why you can have a beautiful makeup moment and still be stuck. The makeup moment ended the tension, but it did not teach the relationship what to do next time. And if nothing new is learned, the pattern does not need permission to come back. It just comes back because it is always known the way. For the anxious person, the danger is accepting warmth because you are afraid to lose closeness. For the avoidant or emotionally unavailable person, the danger is offering warmth because you are afraid of repair. One accepts softness as proof, the other uses softness as escape. And together, they create a loop that feels loving on the surface but unsafe underneath. The anxious person thinks, if I bring this up now, I will ruin the good moment. The avoidant person thinks, if things are good now, why bring it up at all? Both people agree silently to protect the warmth, but what they are really protecting is the repetition. Because the wound that is not named becomes the wound that returns. The conversation that is skipped becomes the fight that repeats. The truth that is avoided becomes the tension that comes back wearing a different outfit. And then both people feel confused. Why are we here again? Because warmth was asked to do a job only repair can do. Warmth was asked to erase hurt. Warmth was asked to rebuild trust. Warmth was asked to prove change. Warmth was asked to calm the body, fix the wound, replace the apology, explain the pattern, and protect the future. But warmth cannot carry all of that. Warmth is beautiful when it supports repair. Warmth becomes dangerous when it replaces it. That is the line. Warmth should be part of healing, not the substitute for it. Affection should help the relationship feel safe enough to tell the truth, not become the reason the truth is avoided. A soft moment should open the door to repair, not close the door on the conversation. This is how you know the difference. If warmth makes it easier to talk honestly, it may be supporting repair. If warmth makes you afraid to bring up the truth, it may be protecting the pattern. If affection comes with accountability, it may be healing. If affection comes with pressure to move on, it may be a reset. If the good day leads to a better response next time, something may be changing. If the good day only delays the same fight, the cycle is still running. The question is not, are they warm? The question is, does the warmth lead anywhere new? Does it lead to understanding? Does it lead to accountability? Does it lead to a different response? Does it lead to more safety in the next hard moment? Or does it only make the relationship feel okay, long enough for everybody to stop asking hard questions? This is the difference between a relationship that is healing and a relationship that is only calming down. Healing leaves evidence. Not perfect evidence, human evidence. More honesty, more steadiness, more care for impact, more willingness to name the pattern, less punishment for having needs, less disappearing when things get real. More safety after the truth, not only before it. That is what you watch for. Not just the hug, not just the text, not just the night that feels normal again. Watch the next trigger. Watch the next hard conversation. Watch whether the same wound gets handled with a new response. That is where the truth is. Because if the next trigger produces the same old reaction, the relationship is telling you something. It is telling you the warmth was real, but the repair was missing. It is telling you the mood changed, but the pattern survived. It is telling you the good moment was not enough to carry the next difficult one. And you do not have to hate the person to see that. You do not have to deny the love to see that. You do not have to pretend the warmth meant nothing. You only have to stop pretending warmth means everything. A relationship needs warmth, but it also needs truth. It needs tenderness, but it also needs responsibility. It needs affection, but it also needs a different response when the same wound appears. So, if you are in a relationship where the person gets warm again and then the same fight returns, do not only ask, why do they keep doing this? Ask, what keeps getting skipped after the warmth comes back? What truth is not being named? What impact is not being understood? What next time plan is missing? What response has not changed? What conversation are we avoiding because the mood finally feels good? Those questions are not there to destroy the warmth. They're there to protect the relationship from depending on warmth alone. The final truth is simple. Warmth can make you feel close again, but repair is what makes closeness safe again. Warmth can calm the moment, but repair changes the next moment. If the only thing that changes after conflict is the mood, the relationship has only softened for a while. But if the pattern changes, if the same trigger meets a new response, if truth becomes safer to say, if impact is allowed to matter, if both people can return to the hard place with more honesty than before, then warmth is no longer a cover. It becomes part of the repair. That is what you deserve. Not a relationship that only feels good when the wound is quiet. Not a relationship where affection is used to skip accountability. Not a relationship where the same fight keeps returning under a softer light. You deserve warmth that comes with truth. You deserve closeness that can hold repair. You deserve a bond where the good days are not hiding the pattern, but proving that the pattern is finally changing. If this helped your body feel a little safer, liking this video helps it reach someone else who needs this clarity. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.